What's going on, everybody? This is John Jake Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with week number 5 of the inaugural season of the FCS Dynasty, taking place here on NCAA Football 06, and we got a great episode for you guys here today, man. 6 of the 8 games that we're going to watch in this episode feature at least one team that is currently ranked in the AP top 25, man. So gonna be a really great episode for you guys. I hope you guys are excited for it. If you are, make sure you go ahead, smash that like button, hit subscribe as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel, by the way. And we'll go ahead and jump into it. First game of the day, we got a team that just was knocked out of the top 25 recently in James Madison, taking on a team that is now back in that same top 25, Alabama State. Now, to be honest with you guys, I am really surprised that Alabama State is back in here in the AP top 25, simply because we saw what happened to them last time that they were in this position. Alabama State, they lose big to New Mexico State. It was 100-0, worst loss of the season. But hey, man, they're back. They're back at it again with the white vans, you know. So we'll see if they play a little bit better in their second top 25 appearance of the season, as they are playing this James Madison squad that certainly is feeling some type of way, you know, taking a pretty difficult loss last week in the previous episode to Delaware that knocked them out of the top 25. As we get a chance to take a look at Kenny Raymer early, he's been really electric at the quarterback position thus far this season, and keeping it going, man, throwing a beautiful touchdown pass, you know, getting it out to the side and allowing his playmakers to do the rest of the work, man. That, you know, really adds on to his touchdown mark. You know, I believe he's now sitting at 12 touchdowns on this season. Been a really great year for the Duke's quarterback, as this defense, man, also showing up as well. They are doing some fantastic things, really forcing the Hornets to be really uncomfortable. That offensive line needing some major work. Hopefully they do address it through recruiting over the course of the offseason, because right now it's really not necessarily working for them as of right now, as James Madison, they jumped to an early 20-0 lead here, as they got a huge lead, but still showing a little bit of fight though. The Hornets do get across the 50-yard line. Brian Ryan with a beautiful throw. We'll see if he can keep it going here as he runs it up the middle with the fullback, but the fullback, he fumbles the football, man. He fumbles the bag. And yeah, man, first promising drive of the day for the Hornets. And I don't know what it is about them, man. Like, they, you know, they've done solid in the simulated games, you know, but you know, when we get into, you know, these types of games where like the lights are bright, you know, we have like a spotlight on this squad, you know, the Alabama State as a whole just seems to really kind of crap the bed, really, as you know, another huge deficit here, down 27-0 already. And then of course they get a huge kick return as well, so that is going to extend the lead even further, and that's now going to make it 34-0 here, and we are not even through the first half yet. It's been just one of those games, man, where anything that could have gone wrong here for the Hornets, it definitely has gone wrong here. And it looks like, barring anything happening here, looks like for the second time for Alabama State, they get ran off the field here, as the Dukes win pretty convincingly in this one. They beat the number 25 team in America 65-7. So this takes us into our second game, and we'll check on another team as in the same conference as Alabama State, at least in this FCS Dynasty universe. Alcorn State, the Braves, taking on Morgan State here in game number 2. Morgan State just getting their very first win of the season. They took down Alabama A&M in what was mostly a one-sided shootout. We're going to see a quarterback review. Definitely has some gunslinger flags. Sean Maxwell, you know, he has 640 yards already, 5 touchdowns, but he's also thrown 5 interceptions. So, you know, really reminds me of Brett Favre in that regard. But when he gets going, man, he is a very talented quarterback. That's for sure. Speaking of quarterbacks, there's Sean Maxwell. He's out there in the open. They try to set up this halfback pass trick play. I don't know why like the CPU runs that play very often. It doesn't seem to be very successful very often, at least in my opinion. But Sean Maxwell, he's going to connect with his receiver there. Has his man wide butt naked open right down the sideline, and it's good for a 72-yard touchdown pass. So Morgan State, they take a 7-0 lead here, and we'll see if their defense can come through and make something happen here, as the defense has not been very good coming into this game, but they will get an interception off of Travis Wilkerson. And the Bears of Morgan State, man, they get set up really beautifully. Start off in Alcorn State territory, and Sean Maxwell, he's going to take care of business, or at least it seems like he is already, not even done with the first quarter of play yet, and he's already having over 100 yards of passing so far today, as now they are back in the red zone here. 2nd and 10, getting it out to the flat, and 84 is going to take care of the rest, man. Another touchdown for Morgan State, and the Bears of Morgan State are going to take a 14-0 lead, man. So a big lead for the Bears. Although the Braves are going to fight back, though, they get a quick touchdown in response. So 14-7 game here could be a little bit bigger of a lead, as they again trying to set up that halfback pass. I don't know what it is about it, man. It doesn't work. I don't know what to tell you, but this could very well work, though. Huge pass down the sideline as Sean Maxwell drops it in the bucket right in between two defenders, and that is already, if I'm not mistaken, 3 touchdowns on the day already for Sean Maxwell. He's getting, if he is able to, depending on how long he's able to stay in this ball game, he might double his passing totals from the course of the whole season, in this game right here. We'll see if Steve Wilkerson has anything to say about it. Nice throw to the perimeter, able to get it into the red zone here, as that was a beautiful double move to get to the sideline, get out of bounds as well, and that will help preserve the clock a little bit. Is now 1st and 10 from the 18. Wilkerson gets it out on the perimeter, but it's fumbled, and it's a scramble for it, but Morgan State, they're going to recover. Wow, an opportunity for the Braves to make this a game, and you fumble the football. You turn it over in the red zone. So now you're really behind the 8 ball here, just trying to get some kind of stop from Steve Wilkerson. But this passing attack that Morgan State has right now, it is really something else. Deon Kirby, the head coach of Morgan State, he's a custom coach, by the way, for year number 1. He is someone that has really brought it all together thus far, and we're really seeing that really play out over the course of this game, as Morgan State, one of the best passing attacks in all of college football. I think we've now seen 5 touchdown passes from Steve Maxwell, but this defense is starting to really come together here. 3 turnovers for the Braves in this ball game, and already a 35-7 lead can very easily get out of hand here if it hasn't already, as we're going to see Maxwell throw over the middle with a nice rollout to the left-hand side, and he finds his receiver over the middle, doing a great job with that post route, as eventually the Bears will drive in with inside the 5 goal line situation, and the ball ends up being batted away there, and a little bit of a moral victory for the Braves, as they did end up bending quite a bit on that drive, but we do at least see them go ahead and at least force them to take a field goal. So, good job by the Braves defense. Maybe they could start to get something together, have a little bit of a moral victory, not necessarily win this game. Also, one of the lesser teams in the FCS for sure, not having won a single game yet this season. But Alcorn State, they will find the end zone, yet another touchdown. So a 38-14 game could get a little bit more interesting. Definitely a good methodical drive here to limit Morgan State's chances, because when this Bear team has the ball, stuff like that, this happens where my man gets out into the perimeter. He's able to throw it deep, and Steve Maxwell, that has to be touchdown number 6. And it turns out that it was, and Morgan State also winning very convincingly, winning 62-14 in this game. So I talked about how 6 of the 8 matchups today featured a top 25 team. Well, 5 of those matchups is actually top 25 matchups, one of which does happen to be the game of the week here in week number 5, and it's going to feature 2 teams from the top 10. Central Michigan taking on the Eastern Michigan Eagles, both teams who are 3-0, as we will go ahead and see who Lee Corso picks for this game, and it does seem like he is going to be rolling with the Eagles. So here we go. Lee Corso 0-2 in game of the week picks. We'll see if that curse is broken or Central Michigan comes out here, they get the upset, and they beat this Eastern Michigan squad. We'll just have to wait and see what happens here, as the Eagles do have a 7-3 lead here early in the second quarter, as Rollins going to drop it off, and he's going to get this guy on the curl route who gets into the end zone, and it's a touchdown for the Eagles. 40-yard touchdown pass, and just like that, 14-3 game here, and it's going to get a little worse for the Chippewas, as this ball is going to be intercepted on the very next drive. Ed James, who leads the MAC Conference in sacks, he also gets his first interception of this season, and it also happens to be, you know, his first defensive touchdown of the season, and the Eagles roam off, and they are soaring here early, man. 28-3 lead here, and I thought this was just going to be one of those games where it was going to turn to a blowout. You know, I'm going to show like the box score a little bit early, something like that, but something incredible happens here. Chippewas, they refuse to give up. Remember, they're also a top 10 team, and they are a top 10 team for a reason now, as Chippewas do eventually get their first touchdown on the board. And not only that, but they also managed to go ahead and get the 2-point conversion. Plus, they get an interception on the very next possession as well. That was Jerry Newton, who already has a couple of tackles in this game. He gets an interception as well here, reading the eyes of Tommy Rollins. So if Central Michigan can finish this drive, this game suddenly becomes very interesting, and their stud running back, who is in the Heisman, he's in the Heisman race. He's currently sitting in the top 5 in terms of Heisman finalists. If the season were to end today, it's obviously not. We got, you know, at least 10 or 11 more episodes before we even get to bowl weeks. Well, we got quite a bit of football action that still really needs to be covered here. But that being said here, Central Michigan, they do manage to tie this game up, and all of a sudden, you know, all knotted up at 28 apiece, you know, this game could really go in either direction. I'm really curious to see, you know, who wants it more. We'll just have to wait and see what ends up happening, as now 35-28 Chippewas respond immediately, and all of a sudden this game is all knotted up once again at 2:24 left to play, as we'll see if Eastern Michigan's got something here in the last minute of this ball game. It's intercepted, and Central Michigan, are they going to pull off the improbable? They were down 28-3, you guys. Are we going to see a 28-3 moment in this series? Johnson giving his guys a chance to possibly take the lead with 35 seconds left to go, but except he misses the kick. Oh no, he misses the kick. So the game remains tied, and Eastern Michigan one more chance to possibly win this game, and we see a Moss moment at the wrong time, and that might be the dagger here. Eastern Michigan, very exciting game, far more exciting than I anticipated. I thought it was going to be a blowout. It turns out to be one of the better games of the season, but the Eastern Michigan Eagles, they will come out on top. they do beat Central Michigan by a score of 42-35. So that does mean the Eagles do end up getting their 4th win in the season. They will now be 4-0 on the year, whereas Central Michigan, they do end up taking their very first loss. They fall to 3-1. And listen, Central Michigan, they did end up winning the turnover battle, but that start in the first half really did end up costing them. But that is not the only top 25 matchup that's happening. We got another top 10 matchup here, all the way in Conference USA. We got the Tulane Green Wave, who are still undefeated as of right now, taking on the SMU Mustangs, who do come in ranked number 7 in the nation. And this has some conference implications, as they are both in the exact same division. So this could have a really big impact on, that race to the national championship, as well as some more localized races in the conference championship. As we take a look at Julius Ervin, now this quarterback for Tulane, he was actually on the preseason cover. Tulane was the preseason number 1 team in America. They've been surpassed by North Texas. North Texas is currently the number 1 team, as of the recording of this video here in week number 5. But we'll see if Tulane has what it takes here, man, to get past SMU. Going on the road against a ranked opponent, never an easy thing to do, and just throws it right at this corner. Carlos Garrett, actually no, he's a middle linebacker. He gave off defensive back vibes, I promise you. I didn't even see his little neck collar, man, but that's how the first score of the game happens, man. It's a pick 6 that gets the scoring started, and all of a sudden, man, SMU, they draw first blood in a more than once, man. They storm off to a 17-0 lead, could be 24-0, and sure enough, it does end up being 24-0. So fantastic start for the Mustangs. We'll see what Julius Ervin does have for his team, as his squad faces a 3rd and long. They haven't been great on 3rd down conversions, as Ervin, he's going to throw this thing towards the end zone, and that does end up being caught. Touchdown Tulane. They end up going for the 2-point conversion, and the Green Wave starting to claw themselves back into this game a little bit. It's a 13-point game, but we see another turnover. It's the 3rd turnover of the day. This SMU defense, really something else as of right now. And it sets them up in a really good scoring spot. They're in the red zone here. They got a chance to get this 30-burger on the board here early before we get to the final quarter of play. But that's intercepted as well. This could be returned all the way back, but the running back cuts him down, as Luis McGee might have saved his team's season potentially. In an era where really only 2 teams make it to the national championship game, like it was set up in 2005, one loss could seriously hamper your chances to win a national title. So, every game is important. It's still important in today's college football, but, with the 4-team playoff, you can at least afford to lose a game, and you could still make it, give yourself an opportunity to play for a national championship. It's not like a one or done thing like it traditionally used to be. As Tulane, they're still fighting hard, man. They are still fighting extremely hard. Down 34-11, but they're gonna play through that final whistle as much as possible, but unfortunately they can't do anything with it. And time really starting to become an essence here, as we will see at least one more touchdown getting scored here. It ends up being a pick 6, and this was really one of those games where it was certainly sloppy. We saw a lot of turnovers in this game, but hey, man, there had to be a winner and there had to be a loser. And SMU, they started the game with 24 unanswered points, and hey, they took care of business, man. So they pull the upset. They beat the number 2 team in America. We'll see how high SMU does end up rising as a result of this game. great win for their program, as SMU will now improve to 4-0, as meanwhile Tulane, they will end up going ahead and taking their very first loss of the season. Hopefully they don't end up falling too terribly far, simply because they did play a top 10 team on the road. So the game of the week that we just experienced isn't the only game in the MAC conference that features two teams from the top 25, because we also have Kent State going on the road to go up against the Ohio Bobcats, and it is a rainy but warm night overall in the mid-60s here, man. As we check out the standings for the MAC East real quick, two teams embroiled in a tight race, as we are still in the early stages of the season as of right now, as both teams are getting ready to take the field. And we'll get a look at this quarterback from Ohio, David Graves, who is a pretty solid quarterback, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions so far in the course of the season. So gonna be really interesting to see how this game ends up playing out, because both teams are very even, but we do have a fumble on the field, and Ohio, just look at that defensive tackle blowing everything up, as Ohio is going to use that to his advantage, as they will get it into the end zone, and the Bobcats will go ahead and take a 7-0 lead here early. We'll see if Kent State can respond here, as we got 4:50 left to play in the second quarter, as 2nd and 10, quarterback rolls to his right a little bit, that's intercepted. So Ohio early on ends up getting a couple of turnovers, and Ohio with a chance maybe to pull away a little bit early. 3rd and 10, looking downfield, but that's intercepted too. Wow, that's absolutely crazy. Getting a ton of turnovers early. 3 turnovers between these two teams already, and we're not even out of the first half yet. So we'll see if which team can get out of their turnover ways, coughing up the ball, and Kent State might be the first to do so. A 64-yard touchdown pass. Nice little catch and run over the middle of the field. And the Golden Flashes, man, taking a 7-7 lead. And the score will remain that way with 3:35 left to play here in the first half. Or not in the first half, but in the fourth quarter. But a untimely interception could very well cost them a potential win on the road against a top 25 team, as not only is it picked off, but it ends up getting intercepted. And so now Golden Flash is behind the 8 ball a little bit. So with 30 seconds, they try to set up a halfback pass, and just not a good idea. Kent State turns over the football 4 separate times in this one. It was an ugly game. It was a very defensive game. But Ohio will come out on top. They will win this one by a final score of 14-10. And the Ohio Bobcats will remain in the top 25. They do come in ranked number 21 in the country. So good win for this program, as Ohio is going to improve to 3-1 on the season. Whereas Kent State, they do end up taking their very first loss of the year. They will fall to 3-1 on the year. And it was those 4 turnovers that do end up costing them at the end of the day. So we now move on to top 25 matchup number 4 on the day, as we move down to the Sun Belt, as UL Monroe, who just entered the top 25 for the very first time, they are number 24 in the country. They take on Florida Atlantic, who is undefeated and ranked number 12 in the country as of right now, as both teams are going to go ahead and take the field. Florida Atlantic coming in 3-0, looking to keep that going, as Florida Atlantic, they have a very nice quarterback in Willie Peterson. 61 for 84, 900 yards, 11 touchdowns coming into this matchup. And most importantly, for those that love people that take care of the football, not a single interception this entire season. At least not yet. We'll see if that remains after this game. But Monroe, man, they hear all the talk about Florida Atlantic, and we're like, nah, man, we can play football too. As the Indians, they were known as the Indians during this time. They're now known as the Warhawks now here in 2022. But the Indians, they jump out to a 14-6 lead early. But Willie Peterson, like I said, man, he is a bad man. He's going to get a quick throw out into the end zone. And they actually do go for 2 points, and they do get conversion. So Willie Patterson does get his 12th touchdown of the season. Still no interceptions to his name, at least not yet. And it does really seem like we are going in the direction of a potential track meet here, as we're barely starting the second half here. We got it 21-14 as of right now. As this quarterback for the Indians, he's just slinging the football all over the field. That's the second touchdown for that receiver right there, and that's been the difference. Monroe now, 28-14 lead. It's a 2-score game. And now pressure gets put on Willie Patterson, who gets the play action. He has to get rid of it early. And we might have jinxed him. Willie Patterson throws his first interception of the season. And not to mention that he also injures his shoulder on the play as well. So we'll see how that injury affects him. See if he can come back and return to the game. But literally on the very next play, Monroe, they're going to cash in on the interception. They get another touchdown, and we have ourselves a little bit of an upset alert here, down by 21, as Willie Patterson throws a second interception. Wondering if that shoulder injury that he suffered, he did come back into the game. He is a pretty tough cat. Watches hockey highlights, of course. I wonder if that has an effect on his ability to throw the football. You never know. But the Indians, they start with a goal line situation, and they will cash in. Third touchdown of the day for that receiver right there. 42-14 is the score. And it looks like the Indians are going to likely run with it, but the Owls still have a little bit of fight in them now. They get a fumble recovery, so you never know what could happen. We've seen some pretty remarkable comebacks so far in this season, as Willie Patterson's going to throw a beautiful football down the sideline. Dude is all by himself, just wide butt naked open right there, as Willie Patterson will now garner touchdown number 13 on the year. But it will not be enough, as Monroe comes down to the Sunshine State down here in Florida, and they will pull the upset off the number 12 team in college football. They suffer their very first loss of the entire season. But Monroe, man, maybe a team to watch out for potentially. They are now 3-1 on the year, and should get themselves catapulted into the top 20. This is a rather impressive win for this Indians program. Meanwhile, we'll see how far Florida Atlantic does end up falling down to, as they do suffer their first loss of the year. They will now be considered 3-1 here in this inaugural season. So we'll go ahead and check out some Big Ten action here, at least new look Big Ten action, as we will see Western Kentucky go on the road to play against Southeast Missouri State. The Redhawks come into this one 2-1, taking on a Western Kentucky squad that has not won a single game, at least as of yet. But that being said, though, I am really curious to see how this game turns out. Both these two teams, could it be any different in terms of their style of play? Southeast Missouri State, they like to air it out a little bit more. They have Grant Williams, who actually does lead the new look Big Ten in terms of touchdown passes. He comes into this one with 8 TDs this season. Meanwhile, West Kentucky, built differently. They like to pound the rock and really take air out of the football, win that time of possession and win in that fashion. So yeah, I'm going to be really curious to see how this game does end up turning out here, as we'll get a look at Grant Williams here in the second quarter. He'll drop back to pass. He's got time in the pocket. He's going to watch this one deep for the end zone. It's going to be a touchdown. TD number 9 for Grant Williams. And the Redhawks will go ahead and take a 7-0 lead. But how about potentially a 14-0 lead? As I think Grant Williams just might have at least a little bit here figured out this Hilltoppers secondary. The Hilltoppers down by 2 scores, 1 minute left to play, and that is the last thing that you want to see. Aaron Pierre wanted his receiver in the flat, but overthrew him, it seemed like. So it looks like Grant Williams and company going to get one more chance here before we go into the halftime locker room. We'll see if they can go ahead and cash in on the interception, as Williams is going to throw this thing deep, and he finds himself yet another touchdown. That was just a perfect ball, well executed, and a 21-0 lead, as that's going to force the Hilltoppers to be a little bit more uncomfortable. They're not used to passing the football as much as what they're going to be forced to do right here, as we get into the last play of the third quarter here, as Grant Williams will go ahead and notch himself his 4th touchdown of the day. So he ends up with 12 touchdowns on the season, 4 of which coming today, and it's going to end up being a blowout victory in conference play against Western Kentucky. As the Hilltoppers, they're still looking for their first win, 0 for 3 so far, while the Redhawks, they improved to 3-1 on the year. So as we come up on our final game of this episode, man, let's go ahead and take a look around just to see what's going on around the NCAA in terms of this FCS universe. Starting with number 13, New Mexico State. They took on the Montana Grizzlies. They do end up winning by 2 touchdowns, as New Mexico State improves to, we see them improve to 4-0, but definitely some more action around the NCAA as well to go with it as we continue to march towards that national championship game. Delaware, who is starting to actually receive some votes a little bit, if my controller actually will stay on course here. Delaware does beat Bethune-Cookman 45-10. Wisconsin, they got to play an FCS team, Dartmouth, from the Ivy League, and it was not pretty whatsoever. Dartmouth winning 63. Yeah, 63-0. That was what the final score was, man. It was really certainly a bloodbath to behold. Eastern Carolina, in the meanwhile, they improved to number 9 in the country, and they took on the Yale Bulldogs, also from the Ivy League. Yale falling to 1-3, losing 37-7. Temple, in the meanwhile, actually had to avoid the upset. They took on Western Michigan, who is under 500 currently. Temple winning 26-20 and improving to 4-0. Akron also getting the chance to jump into conference play, where they took on Southern Illinois, and Akron did end up taking care of business, winning 43-20. FIU doing the same thing to Arkansas State. They win 24-17. FIU improving to 3-0. Georgia State Southern continuing to go ahead and improve here as well. They took on Nicole State in the new look SEC, and another blowout here, man, 45-9. It really makes you wonder when Georgia Southern is going to hop into that top 25. This is their second consecutive 30-plus point win. Idaho, meanwhile, played host to Oral Roberts, who was still looking for their very first win in program history, and they're going to have to continue to keep looking as they lose to 35 to number 22 ranked Idaho. New Hampshire still in the top 25. They hosted Delaware State, who is also in the ACC, and Delaware State falling to 0-4, losing to New Hampshire 56-30 in a shootout. South Carolina, meanwhile, getting to play against an FCS team in a SEC conference fashion. You know they got to get at least one cupcake in a year. South Carolina beating Texas Southern 42-0. As for the Troy Trojans, they took on the Texas State Bobcats on the road, and Troy does come out on top, winning 38-10. North Texas, meanwhile, the #1 team in college football, they beat the Chattanooga Mocs. They also win 38-10, retaining that #1 ranking. Purdue did also get a chance to play an FCS opponent in the Furman Paladins, and Furman could not find the end zone in this one as they lose 45-6, falling to 1-3. UCF comes in ranked number 15 in the country, and they played host to Northeastern, who has not won a game yet, and UCF takes care of business. They win 47-14. Northeastern still looking for their very first win of the season. Towson, meanwhile, looking very good in conference play. They played against Hofstra, and Hofstra lost 48-14 to the Towson Tigers. Both teams now 2-2. UNLV, meanwhile, they played Utah State in, I believe, is Mountain West Conference play, and very close game, man. UNLV nearly getting upset. They win 37-31, and they still will remain undefeated. But for the final game of tonight's FCS action, we swing out all the way out into the West Coast to watch one more top 25 matchup. The number 23 ranked San Jose Spartans, they go on the road and they take on the number 3 team in all of college football, San Diego State, who does come in undefeated. They are certainly in that national championship hunt, and they are led by quarterback Adam Mosley, who has currently the best stats in the, I believe, Mountain West Conference, coming in with 800 yards passing, 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's been really good this year, man, and he's going to continue to be good as Adam Mosley gets this thing down to the sideline, and it's going to be a touchdown for San Diego State. So touchdown number 11, and Adam Mosley comes out here in this first quarter. He comes out with a mission, leaded his team downfield for a separate drive, and San Diego State, the Aztecs, man, coming out hard against the Spartans. But look what happens here. This is something that I haven't seen yet in this series. We actually get our very first safety in this FCS series, as San Jose State, they couldn't score, but they had them pinned inside the 1-yard line. They tried to run a toss play to the outside, and it just don't work out for them like that, right? So 14-2 lead still, even with the safety. And how about the spin move? Oh my goodness, he just created a touchdown out of thin air. Oh my goodness, he didn't even have to do him like that, but oh baby, oh, that is something else to watch, man. You love to see it. And this team, they just came out here. They are absolutely dominating. They had the ball half as much as San Jose State in this one, and they do just simply so much more with it overall. I mean, already up by 26 as we're getting ready to get into the end of the third quarter. Mosley gets another nice pass over the middle, and the Aztecs dominated this one. They win 35-2. Great win. So this does now go ahead and get us to, we're about a third of the way through the regular season now. We're now jumping into week number 6, and you'll want to take this chance to really dive into the conference standings for each individual conference, starting with the ACC. Still have 4 teams that are undefeated in conference play. Delaware, who is actually receiving votes in the top 25. One more win should get them in there. And then we also have Norfolk State, South Carolina State, and New Hampshire in here as well. New Hampshire, of course, still undefeated, 3-0, and they are currently the number 19 team in America as of right now. But on the flip side of things, certainly have some teams struggling in this conference as well. Bethune-Cookman, for example, is 1-3, and then we also have 3 teams in this conference that still have not won a game yet. Delaware State, Howard, and North Carolina A&T, all teams that have not yet won a game in this conference. Jumping into the Big Ten, the Big Ten is, they're doing okay as of right now. 3 teams that are 3-1 right now: Southeast Missouri State, Samford, and Tennessee Martin. Tennessee Martin, of course, receiving votes for the top 25 as well. They haven't cracked it yet. Murray State, who is also working on cracking into the top 25 as a as a team. So two teams that are on the verge of making it in. We do also have Eastern Kentucky, who has not played a conference game yet, but they are currently 0-3 with their last game against Nicholls State, losing 31-14 in that regard, as well as some teams that are doing okay but did lose their conference openers. Tennessee State, Youngstown State, Jacksonville State, and Eastern Illinois, with Western Kentucky right now at the bottom, 0-3 overall and an 0-1 conference record. Their last game we saw last week against Southeast Missouri State, they lost 34-7. It was in pretty convincing fashion, to be honest with you. Moving on over to the Big 12 conference. The Big 12 has actually not played any conference games as of right now, but overall this conference, probably one of the worst. No one with a winning record in this entire conference, and then 5 teams as well that are 0-3. Western Carolina, Prairie View A&M, Mississippi Valley State, Alabama A&M, and Alcorn State all have not won a singular game as of right now. Do have Alabama State in here. They are 1-2, but they were ranked in the top 25. But they did take embarrassing losses to both James Madison. They lost big to James Madison, and then they also had the biggest loss of the season against New Mexico State, which was 101-0. So it's been really down bad for this conference as of right now, but we're still only a third away through the season. Now, the Big East is composed of teams that are from the Ivy League. They have that elite academic prestige. Excuse me, I'm dying. But right now, two Ivy League games have been played. Cornell and Penn are currently undefeated in Ivy League play. But the most impressive team so far, and a team that we're going to watch in the next episode, is the Columbian Lions. They're 2-1 as of right now. Dartmouth also managing to secure a win as well. But Harvard and Brown still are winless as of right now. They're 0-3. Yale has lost in an Ivy League game. They're 1-3. And then Princeton, with the worst record in the Ivy League, they're 0-4 in this third way through the year. Now, quickly glancing through Conference USA, SMU and UCF are obviously on top as of right now. Richmond is undefeated in Conference USA in that East Division. Towson and Hofstra are also holding strong. They're 2-2 with a 1-1 conference record. William & Mary, they're 2-1. I think they definitely have a really talented team. Their only loss was to an FBS squad, but they can definitely do some things in conference play as we progress through the year. And then rounding out the conference, Charleston and Villanova, 1-2 and 1-3 respectively, and Northeastern, who has yet to win a game as of this year. Their last loss was to UCF, which was a 30-point blowout. Among the IA independents, Temple is the only undefeated independent school. They're 4-0 right now and ranked in the top 10, coming at number 9 in the country. But the independents overall are doing really well. Rhode Island is currently 2-1. Morgan State is 2-1. And then UMass, we saw them in gameplay. They almost came back on Sanford. They are actually 2-2 with their last loss to Sacramento State, a heartbreaker, losing by 4. As for the MAC, also going to scroll through the MAC quickly. The MAC dominated by the teams that were relegated from the FBS, but they're doing pretty well overall. However, the teams that are, actual FCS schools, not so much. Between these 4 schools, 0-13, so it hasn't been really good. Southern Illinois, they did almost beat Tennessee State a few weeks ago, but close only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, nuclear missiles, that kind of stuff. Illinois State also winless. Western Illinois also winless. They did give Temple a pretty good game in their previous matchup. And then Indiana State, we saw them once. They got crushed by Tennessee Tech. Only scored 10 points so far in the year, so it hasn't been good for the Sycamores. They could be one of the worst teams in college football in this dynasty. Scrolling over to the Mountain West, UNLV and San Diego State is currently on top. They're 4-0 as of right now, both teams in the top 5. As for the rest of the conference actually doing pretty solid. You got got Northern Illinois 2-1 with a 1-0 conference record. South Dakota, who's 2-2, as is South Dakota State, led by head coach Justin Faith. Southern Missouri State, the Bears, 1-3 with a 1-2 conference record. Denver's been competitive. They're 1-2. One of their losses did come to Alabama State, by the way. And then at the bottom, we got the Omaha Mavericks and the University of Missouri in Kansas City, both of which are 0-4 with an 0-1 conference record, both of which still looking for their first wins of the year. For the last of the Power 5 conferences in this universe, we've got North Dakota State. Unsurprisingly, they are undefeated, 3-0. They do have the highest program prestige in this dynasty as a 3-star. The reason that they aren't ranked yet is because for some reason, like the created teams, like teams that are created within NCAA 06, they automatically start at the very bottom. So that takes a while to, work your way up, but they should be ranked by the end of the season if all goes well. Montana and Idaho State having solid years, 2-2 apiece, and have 1-0 conference record. Portland State is 1-1. They've only played 2 games through 5 weeks. North Dakota is 1-2, as is the Weber State Wildcats. Eastern Washington's 1-2. Everyone in this conference has at least 1 win, so it might be one of the best conferences, top to bottom. Definitely the opposite of the Big 12 conference, where no one has a winning record in the entire conference. Conference made up of 12 teams, which is crazy to me, but good year so far for the Pac-10. Can't wait to see how this conference race progresses. In the SEC, though, probably one of the biggest surprises this year so far is Georgia Southern. The Eagles are 4-0. They are 2-0 in conference play. They are not ranked yet, though. And not only are they not ranked, but they don't even have they're not even receiving votes, which is crazy to me. McNeese State, though, they are receiving votes. They're 3-1 with a 2-0 conference record. They might be playing they gotta play at some point, I would imagine. They're in the same division. And then Southeastern, undefeated so far, 3-0 with a 1-0 conference record. They're in pretty good shape, but for the rest of his conference, though, rest of his conference is under 500. Texas State, App State is 1-3 each. A lot of 1-3s in this conference. Nicole State is 2-2. They are sitting at 500 as of right now, but Wofford is sitting at the very bottom. The Terriers, they might be the Vanderbilt of the new look SEC. If you know, you know. Wofford currently winless as of right now and haven't really looked good at any point this year. And it's not even that they have injuries. They only have the 1 injury at middle linebacker, but that's really about it. So definitely Wofford, they are pretty down bad. So 2 more conferences that I want to cover real quick is the Sun Belt, and I'll do Sun Belt quickly because there's no real FCS teams in here. North Texas and FIU are undefeated. UL Monroe is also ranked along with Troy. And Florida Atlantic, Florida FAU did fall to number 23. Mid Tennessee State is number 8, but they are 0-1 in conference play. Everyone except UL Lafayette is over 500. And the last conference I'm going to cover here today is the WAC. The WAC is 3-1 with a 1-0 conference record, so that's looking good. Stephen F. Austin, 1-2. New Mexico State, still undefeated, 4-0. They are the number 11 team in college football, but I believe they, along with Idaho, they are one of 2 teams that are ranked in this conference, but a lot of offers in this conference as well. About half the conference hasn't won a single game yet. Northern Colorado, Southern Utah, St. Thomas, and Oral Roberts, none of these teams have won a game yet. And then you have really only 2 teams over 500, Idaho and New Mexico State. Stephen F. Austin has secured a victory. They're 1-2 so far this year. Their first win coming against Illinois State. San Jose State, we just saw, they got blown out. And then Utah State, 1-2 surprisingly. Most of their points coming against South Dakota State from the Mountain West, but ever since, they have not won a single game. So that is going to wrap things up here for week number 5. As we now approach week number 6, we jump into that second third. We're moving along pretty smoothly, actually. I hope you guys are enjoying the content. By the way, if you are, make sure you go ahead, smash that like button, hit subscribe as well. if you do happen to be brand new, as this is John Shake Gaming on the mic signing off. I'm hoping you're all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.